Stephen Anthony Ballmer, March 24, 1956, is an American businessman and investor who served as Chief Executive Officer of Microsoft from 2000 to 2014. He is the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers of the National Basketball Association. He is a co-founder of Ballmer Group, a philanthropic investment company. As of November 2024, Bloomberg Billionaires Index estimates his personal wealth at around $145 billion, making him the 10th richest person in the world. At the same time, Forbes ranks him as the 8th richest person with a net worth of $123 billion. Ballmer was hired by Bill Gates at Microsoft in 1980 and subsequently left the MBA program at Stanford University. He eventually became president in 1998 and replaced Gates as CEO on January 13, 2000. On February 4, 2014, Ballmer retired as CEO and was replaced by Satya Nadella. Ballmer remained on Microsoft's board of directors until August 19, 2014. Under Ballmer's leadership, a 14-year period, the company tripled sales and doubled profits, but lost its market dominance and missed out on 21st-century technology trends such as the ascendance of smartphones in the forms of iPhone and Android. Players and sports writers generally consider Ballmer's ownership of the Clippers as an improvement over previous owner Donald Sterling, citing his willingness to acquire superstar players and finance the construction of Intuit Dome. Stephen Anthony Ballmer was born on March 24, 1956, in Detroit, Michigan, as the son of Beatrice Dworkin and Frederick Henry Ballmer, a manager at the Ford Motor Company. Frederick was from Zuchwil, Switzerland, and arrived in the United States in 1948. He is Jewish. Steve's mother was the daughter of Samuel Dworkin, a Russian Jew who fled to the United States in 1914 and became a merchant for a glass store. Through his mother, Ballmer is a second cousin of actress and comedian Gilda Radner. Ballmer grew up in the affluent community of Farmington Hills, Michigan. Ballmer also lived in Brussels from 1964 to 1967, where he attended the International School of Brussels. In 1973, he attended college prep and engineering classes at Lawrence Technological University. He graduated as valedictorian from Detroit Country Day School, a private college preparatory school in Beverly Hills, Michigan, with a score of 790 on the mathematical section of the SAT, and was a National Merit Scholar. Ballmer, the first in his family to graduate from college, attended Harvard College, where he was a manager for the Harvard Crimson football team and a member of the Fox Club, worked on the Harvard Crimson newspaper as well as the Harvard Advocate, and lived down the hall from fellow sophomore Bill Gates. He scored highly in the William Lowell Putnam mathematical competition, an exam sponsored by the Mathematical Association of America, scoring higher than Bill Gates. He graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in Applied Mathematics and Economics in 1977. Ballmer worked as an assistant product manager at Procter & Gamble for 2 years, where he shared an office with Jeff Immelt, who later became CEO of General Electric. After briefly trying to write screenplays in Hollywood, he started attending the Stanford Graduate School of Business for his MBA, but dropped out in 1980 to join Microsoft. Ballmer joined Microsoft on June 11, 1980, and became Microsoft's 30th employee and the first business manager hired by Gates. Ballmer joined Microsoft with a salary of $50,000 plus 10% of the profit he generated and no equity. However, Ballmer's profit share started to balloon out of control as Microsoft grew. When Dave Marquardt suggested for Microsoft to reorganize as a corporation instead of a private partnership, he proposed that Ballmer own 8% of the company in exchange for canceling the profit-sharing model. Paul Allen initially disagreed, but Gates and Allen reached an agreement when Gates agreed to fund an outsized majority of Ballmer's 8% stake. When Microsoft was incorporated in 1981, Ballmer owned 8% of the company. In 2003, Ballmer sold 39.3 million Microsoft shares for about $955 million, reducing his ownership to 4%. The same year, he replaced Microsoft's employee stock options program. In his first 20 years at the company, Ballmer headed several Microsoft divisions, including operations, operating systems development, and sales and support. In February 1992, he became executive vice president for sales and support. Ballmer led Microsoft's development of the Net framework. Ballmer was promoted to president of Microsoft in July 1998, making him the de facto number 2 after the chairman and CEO, Bill Gates. On January 13, 2000, Ballmer was officially named the chief executive officer. He would shed the title of president in February 2001. As CEO, Ballmer handled company finances and daily operations. But Gates remained chairman of the board and still retained control of the technological vision as chief software architect. Gates relinquished day-to-day activities when he stepped down as chief software architect in 2006, while staying on as chairman. And that gave Ballmer the autonomy needed to make major management changes at Microsoft. When Ballmer took over as CEO, the company was fighting an antitrust lawsuit brought on by the U.S. government in 20 states, plus class action lawsuits and complaints from rival companies. While it was said that Gates would have continued fighting the federal suit, Ballmer sought to settle these, saying, being the object of a lawsuit, effectively, or a complaint from your government is a very awkward, uncomfortable position to be in. It just has all downside. People assume if the government brought a complaint that there's really a problem, and your ability to say we're a good, proper, moral place is tough. It's actually tough, even though you feel that way about yourselves. Upon becoming CEO, Ballmer required detailed business justification to approve new products, rather than allowing hundreds of products that sounded potentially interesting or trendy. In 2005, he recruited Kevin Turner from Walmart, who was the president and CEO of Sam's Club, to become Microsoft's chief operating officer. Turner was hired at Microsoft to lead the company's sales, marketing, and services group and to instill more process and discipline in the company's operations and sales force. Since Bill Gates' retirement, Ballmer oversaw a dramatic shift away from the company's PC-first heritage, replacing most major division heads in order to break down the talent-hoarding fiefdoms. In 2012, this led Businessweek to say that the company, arguably the best product lineup in its history. Ballmer drove Microsoft's connected computing strategy with acquisitions such as Skype. Under Ballmer's tenure as CEO, Microsoft's share price stagnated even as the company's annual revenue surged from $25 billion to $70 billion, while its net income increased 215% to $23 billion, and its gross profit of 75 cents on every dollar in sales was double that of Google or IBM, with the company's total annual profit growth of 16.4%. Ballmer's tenure at Microsoft surpassed the performances of other well-known CEOs such as General Electric's Jack Welch and IBM's Louis V. Gerstner Jr. These gains came from the existing Windows and Office franchises, with Ballmer maintaining their profitability. Fending off threats from competitors such as Linux and other open-source operating systems and Google Docs, Ballmer also built half a dozen new businesses, such as the Data Centers Division and the Xbox Entertainment and Devices Division, and oversaw the acquisition of Skype. Ballmer also constructed the company's $20 billion enterprise business, consisting of new products and services such as Exchange, Windows Server, SQL Server, SharePoint, System Center, and Dynamics CRM, each of which initially faced an uphill battle for acceptance but have emerged as leading or dominant in each category. This diversified product mix helped to offset the company's reliance on PCs and mobile computing devices as the company entered the post-PC era. In reporting quarterly results during April 2013, while Windows Phone 8 and Windows 8 had not managed to increase their market share above single digits, the company increased its profit 19% over the previous quarter in 2012. As the Microsoft Business Division and Server and Tools Division are each larger than the Windows Division, Ballmer attracted criticism for failing to capitalize on several new consumer technologies, forcing Microsoft to play catch-up in the areas of tablet computing, smartphones, and music players with mixed results. According to the Wall Street Journal, under Ballmer's watch, in many cases, Microsoft latched onto technologies like smartphones, touchscreens, smart cars, and wristwatches that read sports scores aloud long before Apple or Google did. But it repeatedly killed promising projects if they threatened its cash cows. Ballmer was even named one of the worst CEOs of 2013 by the BBC. As a result of these many criticisms, in May 2012, hedge fund manager David Einhorn called on Ballmer to step down as CEO of Microsoft. His continued presence is the biggest overhang on Microsoft's stock, Einhorn said in reference to Ballmer. In a May 2012 column in Forbes magazine, Adam Hardung described Ballmer as the worst CEO of a large, publicly traded American company, saying he had steered Microsoft out of some of the fastest-growing and most lucrative tech markets. In 2009, and for the first time since Bill Gates resigned from day-to-day management at Microsoft, Ballmer delivered the opening keynote at CES. As part of his plans to expand on hardware, on June 19, 2012, Ballmer revealed Microsoft's first-ever computer device, a tablet called Microsoft Surface, at an event held in Hollywood, Los Angeles. He followed this by announcing the company's purchase of Nokia's mobile phone division in September 2013, his last major acquisition for Microsoft as CEO. On August 23, 2013, Microsoft announced that Ballmer would retire within the next 12 months. A special committee that included Bill Gates would decide on the next CEO. After saying in 2008 that he intended to remain CEO for another decade, Ballmer announced his retirement in 2013, after losing billions of dollars in acquisitions and on the Surface tablet. Microsoft's stock price rebounded on the news. Ballmer says that he regretted the lack of focus on Windows Mobile in the early 2000s, leaving Microsoft a distant third in the smartphone market. Moreover, he attributed the success of the expensively priced iPhones to carrier subsidies. He went on to say, "People like to point to this quote where I said iPhones will never sell, because the price at $600 or $700 was too high. And there was a business model innovation by Apple to get it essentially built into the monthly cell phone bill." Ballmer called the acquisition of the mobile phone division of Nokia his toughest decision during his tenure. Ballmer hosted his last company meeting in September 2013 and stepped down from the company's board of directors in August 2014. On December 24, 2014, the Seattle Times reported that the IRS sued Ballmer, Craig Mundy, Jeff Rakes, Jim Altschin, Orlando Ayala, and David Gunnar in an effort to compel them to testify in Microsoft's corporate tax audit. The IRS had been looking into how Microsoft and other companies deal with transfer pricing. In 2015, he and his wife co-founded Ballmer Group, a philanthropic investment company that aims to help children, particularly those in poor families, achieve economic mobility. In December 2023, CNN estimated that Ballmer was set to collect $1 billion in dividends from his ongoing ownership of Microsoft stock, after the company announced an increase in its dividend to $3 per share.